A meeting of the Odessa Development Corporation Board to order. And Peggy, well, before I do anything, I'd like to welcome Blake Netherland to his first meeting. Welcome to the board.
Thank you.
We look forward to you providing your skills and value added. Peggy, would you lead us in the invocation, please?
Sure. Will you bow your heads? Our Heavenly Father, we come to you today filled with gratitude for the unbelievable blessings that you've given to us, to this community. We thank you, Lord. We ask for your wisdom as we go through this meeting today doing the city's business. Father, help all those that are in need. Help us to remember all that we are and all that we have is through your grace. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Peggy. Let's all stand for the pledges. Start with the pledge to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Texas flag. Honor
the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas,
one state under God, one and indivisible. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to consider the minutes of the February 13th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes? Any corrections, additions? I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Want to consider or have any comments on non-agenda items. Any member of the public may address the ODC board regarding any of its agenda items before or during consideration of the item. Are there any citizens' comments on non-agenda items? I see none. We'll move on to the contractors' reports. Tracy, are you going to give a report for economic development?
Afternoon. Thomas, I'm not available this afternoon, so I'm going to be giving a quick overview of what we've been doing lately. We have several projects that we're working on. Right now, Project Phoenix is the one that's front and foremost just because it is a heavy manufacturing project that will be here in Odessa next week for a site visit. They are originally it was the consultants told us it was a $2 billion capital investment. I'm so sorry. A capital investment. We did meet with the company earlier this week via Zoom call, and they have upped the CapEx on that to $4 billion. And it should create up to 1,000 FTEs at full employment. They're supposed to make their final decision. I think we're up against a couple of other states at this point, and they'll make their final decision on a site by year end. Project Thunderstorm is a data center that they've also already sent out a press release on this one. It's New Era Helium. They have signed an LOI for 200 acres of land in West Ector County. They're going to develop a 250 megawatt net zero energy data center for artificial intelligence. The CapEx on this project is a little over $100 million. Job creation is going to be determined. It depends on who they find to as a tenant. It'll be usually with an AI like this. It's going to be someone like Google or Meta, something like that. We are also still working with Project Van Zant, which is the battery storage project. They are going to be in South Ector County. They are still working with obtaining their tax abatement or pilot programs with the county OC and medical center. They're getting pretty close to being completed with that. This CapEx is like 300 million, but they're very minimal jobs. There's usually only a few jobs for projects like this, and then any of their maintenance, they contract. But they should hopefully contract that locally. Project Clean Energy is the refinery project that we've been working with for several months. They've also identified a property in South Ector County. They're needing about 100 acres for this project. It will have a CapEx of over 200 million, and they'll create at least 100 full-time equivalent jobs. Right now, we're working on a surface waiver on the property with the mineral owners so we can move forward with this project. Project Lone Star Lithium is back again. You know, they're up and down all the time. We hear from them, and then we won't hear from them for months. But they're back again because of the tariffs that have just been imposed on Canada, because they were working on a project in Canada to begin with, but to import the stuff then into Texas or into the U.S., and they're going to get hit with the tariffs. So they're back here looking at a site. They've also identified some property in South Ector County, but it's also pending the surface waiver from the mineral owners. See, we're still working with Project Horseshoe, which is another data center that we have been meeting with probably that one's been going on about 8 months. They are looking at some in Pinwell, out in in fact, it's past Pinwell. It's in way west Ector County, close to the border of the boundary border there. So it's really closer to Monahans than it is Odessa, but that's okay. It's going to be that one. There's about probably 300 million capital investment also on it. What these guys are doing, they're going to build the campus, and then they lease the facility to a user, which is what most of these guys are doing. So, but they're also going to be an artificial intelligence facility also. Project PBS is what we called it. It's Premier Builders, I believe it is. Anyways, the compliance committee just approved a grant for them, and so Brian will tell you a little bit more about that project. He's here to tell you guys about that project. Project Fix It Fast was also one that they just looked at. Compliance just reviewed. We did come up later after they approved a project. We figured out that the NAICS code on that project did not actually fall in the guidelines of what we can fund. However, it is going to be a headquarters for their corporate headquarters, so there is some funding available, but it's different. So we're going to have to go back and look at that one again. So you should maybe get that one next month. Let's see. This week we have met with representatives from Project Panda is what they're calling it, which is also another AI data center that's looking in South Odessa. We don't have a lot of details on that one because we've only met with them one time, so we'll move forward with that one. And then we have also a general contractor project management firm that contacted us via email. They had seen our construction ads on LinkedIn. So those are hitting people, and they're looking at putting a location, a branch office here in Odessa, especially after we talked to them and they heard about all the projects we have going on. They figure they have plenty of work. And then we've got a new one that we're also working with. Some of the board members met with them this morning at breakfast. It's called Project Whiptail. It is a combination petrochemical and AI data center. They're going to have both. They're looking at a huge parcel of land, and there's just a lot of moving parts on that one still. There's a lot of things that we still have to kind of work towards on that one. That one is this $13.6 billion capital investment project, and it'll be over 500 full-time employees, and that's just on the plant part, and that doesn't count what the AI the data center is going to be. And he was kind of this morning talking that it's going to be more like a pharmaceutical type campus. So there could be some pretty big jobs there.
And that was billion with a B, right?
With a B, yes. Yes, with a B, 13.6 billion. So that's all we're doing, just a few little things. So if y'all have any questions.
Any questions for Tracy? Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Current media partners, Christy?
Good afternoon. I'm going to keep my report fairly short. We had an advertising committee meeting last week, and they asked me to do just a very quick show and tell. David has seen some of these assets a few times, but the rest of you probably haven't. So I'm going to run through that real quick. Wanted to hit a couple of highlights. The website, all of our numbers are really doing pretty well. LinkedIn in particular, we were very excited when Tom and Tracy let us know about the business that's actually coming as a result of the ads. Very seldom do you get someone actually tell the person that it came from that. So that was pretty nice. And our construction page has actually come to number 4 on the website pages now. So for the first time, it's there. And we just started that construction campaign about 6 weeks ago. Wanted to mention that. Also, we're working on a landing page and a one sheet on data centers. I think a lot of people have questions, and with all the activity, we thought that might be a good idea just to do a little bit of education on that. Other than that, I know that Ronnie Phillips is going to give you all a little bit of an update on our meeting, so I won't go through too much of it, but the Native campaign we were talking about, I did want to tell the board, we were not too happy with some of the results. We weren't seeing our articles pop up where we wanted them to be. So we worked with Golden Shovel, the other contractor, and they actually came up with a plan. So we're going to be placing those over the AP wire, where it's going to 3,000 different publications and websites in the U.S. So I think that we'll see more results. So we paused. They're crediting the month of February since we didn't have any results. And so probably in a couple months we'll have more results on that one. So I wanted to mention that and show you guys a very quick show and tell just on the assets that are out there, just to let you know a little bit about what other people are seeing about Odessa. The first one is the new logo that was developed a few months ago. I wanted to show this just in case you haven't seen it. So many of our ads are geared toward people outside of the area. So we're just now starting to see this logo more internally. So this is it. It's Odessa Development. Now, when we're talking about the corporation, we have corporation in here. If it is something that is going through the chamber, then we also reference Odessa Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Department, but it can work for both. One thing that I know that the staff, and after we researched so many others, the state of Texas, Texas has got great incentives. We wanted to make sure people know where we are. That's the reason for the simplicity, the state, and showing where we are in the state. The ads that we've been doing are we have very large headlines. We're running very few this year in the trade publications, but you also see these on social media. We have small animation ads that have a very big headline and then some movement with the graphics. But I just wanted to show you kind of the look and feel of some of these, just so you have an idea. What we do, the photo that's in the O down there with Odessa on social media, that's a video that has motion to it. So all the different graphics, we've got, probably about 40 different little social media videos like this.
And if we wanted to go and see it, the website, is it on Odessa?
So the website is only-odessa.com. It's also still under Odessa Tex, TEX.com, but since everything we've been doing is only Odessa, we have a new URL for it too. And I thought what I might do after this too, I might send, maybe even in the next board packet, or I know Kathy can send to all of the board to maybe send just kind of a few more samples, not to take the time, but as you want to look through those, we can do that as well. There's also, at the end of this, we did a very nice video last year that we have about 25 different versions of it. We have social media clips, we have a long version. We've updated it with the new logo. We have it for the target industries, but it's a rather large video, and I was going to show it, but it looks like you'll have a very long agenda, so I think I'll email that to you so that you can see it. The website we updated about 18 months ago, and I'm going to see if it'll let me click through to it, but we'll see if it'll pull the internet up. If not, though, definitely take a look at onlyodessa.com or Odessa TEX. But we try to update, it's playing here but not up there. Is that nothing? Sorry, you guys. Okay. We go in monthly and have meetings on this, though, to make sure that everything is up to date. We're posting articles, we're posting blogs, we're about to launch a series on Economic Development 101, breaking down different things about what a 4A tax is, what a 4A tax is not. Some of the things we talked at length in the committee about that, so we'll be coming up with more blogs to post on the website. So, and those are things that anyone can see, whether you're in the target or not. So that will be something to look for. I'm going to show, I brought just a couple of the videos if they'll play.
About 80% of our students are from the Permian Basin, and about that many graduate from UTPB and work here in the Permian Basin. So whether it's an accountant or an engineer or a teacher, you know, we are the quintessential grow your own university. Over the next couple of decades, we'll need a little bit less than 40,000 new workers with a baccalaureate degree, 160,000 total. You know, we have to really step up our game to make sure that we can do that. So with partners like ODC, you know, we're really making great strides in being able to achieve that really important goal for our community.
I'm proud to be associated with Odessa, with our Chamber of Commerce, with ODC. We're in this together. We will find more and more and more success together.
So I just picked a couple of the testimonial videos, but these are the ones that I've been talking about with a lot of our community partners. We have the videos with Tom and Tracy, different businesses, Motran, just to put things out there. I think we have a total of 43 clips. Some are 15 seconds, some are a minute and a half, but those are going to be running on social as well. So I kind of wanted you to just to see what they're looking like without playing all of them, because I know a lot of times you're not seeing the things that we're placing. And then I will email the full video just so that everybody can see that. And then anything else you want to see, we'll put in that as well. So, yes, ma'am.
I'm new to this, so I need a little coaching.
Sure.
But, you know, when I look through here, it looks so impressive. There's a lot of paper in here with lots of
Yes.
numbers of people looking at it and
Yes.
stuff. But how do you tell, or how can you tell us which of these things are successful and how successful? I mean, how do you gauge whether or not something that you're doing works for us? Because I don't have
It's
the
hard to
foggiest
right.
idea.
Well, and I think so many things now with especially the digital ads. You know, people talk about impressions, and impressions sound great because I can give you numbers in the hundreds of thousands and the millions. But if people, what we look for is what are people engaging with? What are they looking at? And then we take the numbers that are here, we go to the website and see if they're translating into people actually, when they click to the website, are they doing anything? Are they just going in and bouncing off? Or are they actually doing anything? The things right now that we're seeing the most engagement with are LinkedIn. And those are more geared toward businesses. And but at the same time, part of what we're charged with is to let the public know what ODC does. So we're still on Facebook and doing things like that, more to those groups that might be in a business expansion or retention type position. Those, if you look on Facebook, they don't engage as well. So quite frankly, a lot of that's awareness, just to say we're getting our message out there. The ones that are really engaging more are on LinkedIn. And then furthermore, the videos that we play, these programmatic videos that you see the numbers for, those perform really well. And what we're looking for is, are people really clicking on them and watching them, or are we just getting impressions? So the impressions are big. Those smaller numbers, those clicks, that's what we should pay attention to. When those go down, we know we need to make a change. Does that help a lot? That's a very
Yeah.
quick,
So,
And,
you know.
but I would like it when you're telling us about these, if you, what you just said.
Sure.
If you said, for instance, if you look at XYZ here, this is going down, and so I think we need to do something different.
Absolutely.
Or this is, because
I'll bump that to the top of that section with the rationales too, where you can see that. And typically in my report, I'll try to point some of those out, the good and the bad, you know, if they're going down too. But I'll try to put another section in there that's an easier thing to find in a 45-page report.
well, and I know we have members that are meeting with you and
Sure.
know a lot more about it. I just
Sure.
thought, every time I print this out and I look through it, I go, wow.
It's tough, and honestly, on the digital thing, so many people just report on impressions because they look good. They just don't mean as much as the people that are clicking and really looking at us. I mean, so I hope that helps a little bit. And
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
and I think what I'm hearing and have heard in the past, Christy, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're watching for trends, and trends going to tell you it's either going in the right direction or it's not, and trends in the specific places where you think it would make a material difference with regard to return on our investment, our advertising expense.
yes,
Does it-
and that is right. And that's and Brittany, my partner, she actually really watches these things daily. And a lot of times, I mean, it's not uncommon for us to have something and there's a dip, and we have another digital partner that we work with, and they get together and go, okay, why is this happening? You know, why are our numbers going down? Sometimes that is simply just because we've been running the same thing for 6 months and people are tired of seeing it. So sometimes it's a simple fix like that. But it's taking it and just making sure that we're paying attention. And I think that that's something that we'll work with the advertising committee on more too. That's probably something that ought to be at the top when we meet to talk about what is working and what's not. Because sometimes it's not. We did have a dip a few months ago. We kind of did this. It was great to report all the climbs, and then we had a significant dip and had to look at it. And then we changed what was running and, you know, refreshed it, and they went back up. So it's just watching, because they go up and down.
Well, thank you.
So sure.
Any other questions, comments?
Well, how are you getting your analytics, your percentages every month? Like who's giving us those numbers?
Okay, so what we do basically when we're running a campaign, the dollars that we spend will buy a certain number of impressions, right? And so what we'll do is we'll take a look at those and say, okay, they delivered all these impressions to these various channels, and here's the engagement and here's the click-through. What we're doing is we're comparing it month over month. So what you're seeing in this report is compared to the last month, what went up, what went down, things like that. Now, at some point, what I need to provide, and I did this, you know, once last year, a 6-month or a 1 year, where you can maybe see a graph that shows you that, and that might kind of help that. But typically what I share in the report is month over month, but glad to look at a full annual and try to break it down to where it's a chart, you know, where you can see the ups and downs too. So.
One of the things I think it'd be good to qualify is that sometime last year or the end of the year before, we concluded that we were getting a lot of information in our packet, and we felt it wasn't necessary for all the contractors to come and report every month. That quarterly was sufficient. Now, if the board determines that they want to change that, obviously we can reconsider that. But I just want you to understand that when Christy's talking about an additional report, maybe a 6-month report or something like that, she could do that at the next quarterly visit to this board. If we want it earlier, obviously we can get it earlier. It also can come through that advertising committee. Is another place for it to happen.
Aren't you coming every month?
I
was gonna say,
I've been on the schedule to be every month. My report was never taken to quarterly. I'm glad to do quarterly. I realize it's a lot. So what, you know, we serve at your pleasure. Whatever you want to see. We can send a report monthly and just present quarterly too. Whatever works best.
Yeah, and I think it's important for the board to understand, you know, the way I would want to act as president on behalf of the board would be, let's be nimble. If we see something that we want to change, let's change it. You know, if we see something that's not working well, let's don't be afraid to change it. And so if these reports, the frequency and whatnot, isn't working for you, let's talk about it and make sure that the board is getting adequate information, substantive information in order to make good decisions on behalf of our citizens. So just an aside there.
How
Sure.
often would you recommend?
I-
Because I manage this for my business.
Okay, okay.
So, 1 month we had a 20% dip. The next month it's 40% up.
Great, yes.
So is it monthly that's beneficial to us,
Or more quarterly.
or more of a longer trend
I-
to see? Because 1 month something's working, the next month it's not, then it is again.
Sure, absolutely. So, I think quarterly is sufficient. I really do. And even one thing that you might consider is I could do the short report that just has the task list, the 2 or 3 page report that says this is what we've done this month and here's what you need to know. And then quarterly, do the bigger one that shows that. And then if I feel like there's something that pops up that you need to consider, I could certainly ask to have it put on the
Well,
agenda.
and additionally, if something comes up in the advertising committee, the board needs to probably know about this, even though it wouldn't typically be in
Sure.
your monthly report, then that can be added at that time. So,
Absolutely, absolutely.
The thing that I think would be helpful is as I look at this, in order to know if that was up or down, I've got to get out my packet from last
Sure.
month.
Sure.
And so, I think if there was some way to deliver, maybe if you're doing it by quarter, if you had each one of these and you had January, February,
Sure.
March, so we could see, because I don't really have a point of reference on this.
Sure.
I don't know if 235,000 impressions
Is good
on
or not, when
Facebook
you're not seeing it.
is huge or
I
not.
think that makes good sense too. And I think absolutely, just because we've done it this way, there's no reason that we have to. I think if we show it, whatever is more beneficial for you to see, and if I see something that I think makes more sense, I can certainly tell you.
Yeah.
But I can do that by quarter easily.
I think a comparison, don't you all think? So we could see that
Yeah,
without.
well, we talked to her at length, Tim and I did, and they do a really good job. And it'll be my turn in a minute, but just real quick, they do a really good job of watching what's going on, because that was one of our first concerns: are we reaching people or not? And Christy actually said one of the things may be that it's research paper time or whatever. That may be a bunch of college kids looking at economic development, doing a report for it. We don't know. But we do know that they are, and they're really good on watching what works. We live in a society, and y'all all know this. We live in a society where everything is. You can't print it, and you'll ask any newspaper person. You can't print an article over 15 minutes long in a newspaper, or they're done. They're not going to read it. So everything is attention grabbing, and they're really good at watching what's going on. And if it, like we were talking, is it working? Is it not working? And reacting to no, it's not working. Nobody's looking, but it always is. I hate to say it like this, but it's like being married to a blonde. If everything's not new and exciting, we're in trouble. So.
Don't put that in the minutes.
Come on, I'm notorious for that kind of stuff, so just go ahead.
Well, whether you put it on paper or when you report, if you just say the trends that were up this time
Absolutely.
was X, Y, Z, and the ones that were down, just something
You
that
bet.
gives us a frame.
You
of
bet. I
reference.
think the next report, I'll do it a little bit differently, and I'll kind of tell you what we did last year, what the changes were this year, and I'll kind of give you a summary of those things. I think that might be very helpful. Glad to.
Thank
It'd
you.
be good to
Of
have
course.
chronological. This is what we did in the
course.
first quarter, and this is where we're at now.
You bet.
Yes.
Anything else for
I think
Christie?
that's it, unless y'all have anything for me.
All right, thank you, Christie.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker, Black Chamber of Commerce.
First of all, good evening to everyone.
Hello.
Thank you so very much for putting me behind two dynamic presentations. So everything that I do will look minute in your eyes. But anyway, just a recommendation. I would much rather listen to Tracy than Tom Mansky any day. So let's make sure that we put that on the record.
You want us to put it there twice?
Please. We just want to touch on our high points since our last quarterly report. A lot of things that we're seeing, or a lot, if we, the goals we set, some of the goals we've already reached. As for instance, last month on our Facebook alone, we saw 85% increase. And in February, we always run our digital Black History Month educational board there on 8th and Dixie. We get so much feedback, some good, some bad, but being a marketing person, I say any type of feedback is good feedback. So what the reason for this is because people went in, they looked to see who was being represented that day, and a lot of people actually went in and reread the stuff because we would repost some of the people. They're on Facebook. So February is always our strong month as far as our numbers with our social media, and our website as well saw a dynamic increase in traffic. I don't know if we partnered off of that, but our counseling sessions, they also increase. We are to the point now that we're actually out looking for some standalone locations for some potential members. As a matter of fact, I just talked to Tom today about sitting down with him and meeting with him because we've had some young entrepreneurs that has gotten to the point that we've educated them to the point that now they know the process. They know how it works. They know how to come to us. We send them to the SBDC if they don't have a business plan. And then once you complete that process, there's monies available if you qualify. This is the status. This is the criteria. So we have seen so much of this, and it's almost to the point that it's a little scary and nerve-wracking because we've never seen this before because we're kind of a smaller version, and I always tell people we're a conduit that runs to the Odessa chamber. They always help us. But we have had different projects coming to us that we're trying to figure out how to get these projects written up and get them into the hands of Tracy and Tom and Lindsay and find out how we can get some of these people warehouse space, standalone building for inventory. As a matter of fact, one of our members who is in another town is looking to open an office here in Odessa, and they wanted to find out what type of office space is downtown, what's available, what are we looking for as far as cost. So now we're getting into the point where we're researching a lot of this information. We're going in, we're finding out the cost of a building, what it would take to renovate it, what it would take if we wanted to get these businesses to move here. It's not to the magnitude that you're going to see 1,500 jobs, but you may see 5 to 10 mom and pop. So this is what we're working on. Our numbers are growing. We saw over 550 contacts. This is everything that comes through our office, everybody, and we get calls from, why is my taxes so high, which I have no idea, but we direct them to the same people. We direct them to the people they need to contact. So we're looking at our numbers growing continuously. We hope we don't have a drop off. We're going to have our business mixer this month, and then we're going to have our community cleanup. We're going to even have a basin day of fitness. So we're trying different ideas. We're going to do some sponsorships. We're going to work with UTPB, and as a matter of fact, I was contacted today with a program that the city is going to implement that we're looking to partner with them to kind of educate, motivate, and then develop some of the projects we're trying to get across, and not just the community, but throughout the city. So everything we hope to continue to see this go up. We are hoping to, the only thing I really hate I don't use hate because my mom always told me that was too strong of a word. We would like to see with one of our local organizations, we partner to pass out food boxes, and we help with manpower. We help with finances. We are seeing an increase. We started with 75 boxes that we were distributing. Now we're almost to 200. So that means too many people are still in need, and somehow if we can get them to work and get some of these programs and projects we got scheduled and listed, if we can get those implemented, maybe we can help some of those people, because when they come and pick up their food, the first thing they ask, is there jobs available? How can I go about? Some of them don't speak a lot of English, and to the point we're working with a group about working with us as far as bilingual, and working with some of our potential customers to help them realize what they have available to them. But you'll have to do this the right way. So we have a plan in place. It's piling on a little bit more than we thought we would. We just started our clothing drive for this month. Last year we collected over 40 cases of clothing, and between 4 organizations, it was gone within 2 weeks. So any questions? I know that's a lot in a little time, but Tom's not here, so I don't have to try to impress anybody.
Chris?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is your membership growing?
Yes, it is, and yes, it is, and we don't want to jinx that. We have, as a matter of fact, we're working with organization now as far as a sponsorship. We've been doing the paperwork with them, and we think that everything's in place. So we'll hopefully this month we'll have them in place as a sponsor, and then we were just contacted on Monday with another organization that was asking about how to become a gold member. So I don't know if, hopefully the word is finally getting out that that the work we're doing, it's not to the point of the other chambers, but it's like we're one of those little dust devils. You can't do as much, but you work just as hard.
But that's not what we were looking for.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how many of you know. The reason that we have a contract with the Black Chamber of Commerce is we felt like there were a lot of small business people,
Right.
owners, managers, that we weren't connecting with in any way, shape, or form.
Yes.
And we wanted to make sure we didn't miss a trick with regard to new businesses, expanding businesses, and growing jobs in that smaller market.
Right.
And we think that we're making the connection.
It started out as a crawl, but now that we're able to get the word out and actually touch base, and we actually have companies that come to us now and ask, what do I need to do to increase 3 people, 4 people? What do I need to do? I have an apparel business, but I have nowhere to store my product. So if I get a warehouse, I can put 3 people to work. And that's what we're doing. And right now we're every one we can, we send them to Tyler at the SBDC, because some of the companies that are in business didn't have a business plan. So they didn't go about it the right way. So we kind of had them to backpedal, start them to the point where they have a business plan so they can implement it into their program. So yes, that's our point exactly. And that's our main goal.
I just was wondering, is there overlap with the food bank, with your food box program, or is it a completely different program?
No, ma'am, it is totally different. This is something that started about 5 years ago, and this is one of our local churches that we help with. And we saw a need within we had a growing congregation. We just started a clothing pantry. We thought, okay, we didn't want overkill. We found some families that we thought were getting missed. And then all of a sudden, I don't know if the word got out or what took place, but we saw a continuous growth, and we went from like 75 to 100, then 125 to 150. This last month we did 180, and this month we're expecting 200. And each Friday that we do it, second Friday of every month, we pretty much run out every month. We have to turn vehicles away. We turn families away. So I don't think we have enough. I think we could use more. And I know some organizations it gets pretty costly. But I think it's a lot of families that are still in need. And we've had people come to us and tell us, if it were not for the food that we're giving them, they would not be able to make it to the second half of the month. They would not be able to eat. One gentleman and his son has cerebral palsy. He said, "This is how I feed myself and my son from the 15th on." It is needed, and I really hate that, because to see so many families struggle in an area as wealthy as Odessa in the Permian Basin. But we always say we try to get in where we fit in. Whoever we can help, we try to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I have a question just on the people you're just now talking about. Are those people elderly? Are they people with families and children, or do you know who they are?
No, it goes from one end of the spectrum to the other. Believe it or not, probably 10 to 15% are elderly. Mm-hmm. Most of the people that come to I would say between 25 and 50, and most of them, some of them will have their children with them. They'll have as many as 3 to one couple of young ladies had 7. So all of them have families, and the elderly, they're on a fixed income. So I know that we have about 10 people that come each month, and because they're on fixed incomes, and say that their Social Security just doesn't go as far as it needs to go.
Okay, now and I'll try to cut this quick. We'll talk later. But let me ask you this: as far as the resources where you get the food that you get, how do you get those? You pay cash for it?
We purchase it from the food bank.
From the food bank,
yes.
You purchase it,
and then we box it, and sometimes we get donations from our generous people in the community. Yep. When they see that, when we give food vouchers to the point where it helps stretch what they're trying to do, it makes it go a little further. But yeah, most of it we purchase and we distribute.
And it comes out of your budget.
And it comes out of St. James's budget. We help them, and we just partner with Manpower.
Okay, you help with Manpower. You don't give them a cash donation.
We have members that do give, but they do that not out of the chamber.
Okay,
yes.
Not coming out of the chamber. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. No problem.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Tyler Patton with the SBDC.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You have the report in your packet. I kind of wanted to summarize the last 3 months rather than just go over each individual month, if I can do that. Since I was last with you, as you might imagine, there's been a lot of changes at the SBA. Some of those has filtered down to us. Some of them has filtered down to our center. Bluntly, many things are still in flux, and we don't know what the final decisions will ultimately be made. It's affecting, in fact, we've had to postpone some workshops until we get clarity from the SBA, who needs to get it from the administration on what we can and cannot do. Specifically, what topics we can cover, who we can partner with, what sponsorships we can have, things like that. In fact, even to the point of how we recognize our clients for success stories, small businesses of the year, etc. So all those things are kind of in flux. But the good news is, or the bottom line is, we're not in danger of changing what our core services are. The free one-on-one consulting, in general providing workshops is still going to be fine, and research, which is our core services that we've been providing for however many years, 36, 37 years now, and that we provided here in the Permian Basin is not going to change. It just may look a little different. Okay? So just to kind of sum up the last 3 months, we've had 934 counseling sessions. That encompassed 595 hours. We're able to have 5 workshops with 61 attendees. Our clients in the last 3 months have opened 7 new businesses. 2 of those are in Odessa. These types of businesses include a janitorial company, a construction company, an occupational therapist, a health spa, mobile mechanic, a car wash, and a hot shot trucking company. So those are pretty, for those of you new to the board, those are pretty representative of the type of companies that we work with, and then that we help gain financing. These clients create, not just these, but our clients in general, created about 33.5 new FTEs in the last quarter. Those are spread out over about 13 different businesses, so nobody had more than an increase of about 4. So I'm not going to detail them here. However, our clients did secure just under $3.4 million this quarter, with about 1.88 of that coming from Odessa clients. So that's a good start. I say start, I guess we're actually 6 months in now, but that's a good trend for us. Right now, financing is tough, in particular for startups. So we are seeing some traction there, though, that's coming along. Just not in big chunks. It's going to be in smaller bits is what's happening. For the next 3 months, we got about 10 workshops on the schedule. Hopefully, we're able to have all of those. 5 of those will be our partnership with Frost Bank. We're bringing that back for a second year. It's the Frost Bank series. They will do 5 workshops basically between now and Memorial Day. So we'll do a couple every month for the next 3 months. Those were very popular last year. The one we have actually coming up a week from today already has like 35 people registered. So I feel it's going to be very successful again. We moved it up in the calendar to avoid the summer travel that people are out. You know, our numbers go down during the summer for like a lot of people. So this, I think, will allow us to reach more of our clients with the messages from Frost Bank, and they do a really good job with that. We'll have 3 financial management workshops, an access to capital seminar, which actually will be done on SBA Small Business Week, and then QuickBooks for Beginners. We'll bring that back as well. That's always been very popular and continues to be. I want to thank you again for your support. Is it okay if I pass out? We just got annual reports in.
Sure.
So, and I'll draw your attention to a couple of things.
This is February.
So this is the annual report for the entire Northwest Texas region for 2024.
Thank you.
Again, for those of you who are new to the board, our sister centers in the Northwest Texas region are Abilene, Wichita Falls, Lubbock, Amarillo, and Stephenville. So I feel like I'm leading music at church, so if you will, turn to your hymnals to page 3. This is a statistics summary for the Northwest Texas. I won't walk you through every bit of this because some of it's just, anyway. This is compiled independently by what used to be called the Crispin Report. It's a national study that's done. Congress pays for it through the SBA. Other than providing our client information, contact information only, that's all we do. We don't play any role in compiling the numbers whatsoever. And just to give you an idea of what we represent in this, we represent about 25% or more of pretty much all of these things here. Now, there is one thing I want to point out, because if I were in your seat, I'd be saying, wait a minute, what's going on here? The Client's Council, 2,758. So if you looked over at the report that was in your packet, you'll see last year we had 3,136 Client's Council. So what gives, right? Well, in the SBA world, everything depends on what time frame you're looking at. So when I do this report, I'm looking at all Client's Council for that given month. So somebody theoretically, if they met with us every month for 12 months, would be counted 12 times in this number. Here, they're only counted once. So, and then also, would like you to shift over to about 6 pages over. 3 pages, 6 pages, but 3 things. And you will see one of the people highlighted is Misty Long from the Odessa Birth and Wellness Center. She is one of our clients. She was a success story this last year, and she is being recognized by the regional SBDC office as well as the state office. So we're really proud of her. She's done a great job. There's some other clients of ours in here. The 828 Car Wash out of Monahans is also our client. So they usually pick out one from each segment of our market. So that is the one for Odessa. We're really proud of her. She does a great job.
Is she receiving an award?
She did. She received a Success Story Award.
Okay.
She will be considered, assuming they still have the awards, she will be in line for Veteran-Owned Business of the Year. Now, that award wouldn't happen until next year. Mm-hmm. But yes, that is in fact the case.
Cool.
Again, assuming, and that lately has been very dangerous. So, any questions?
Just for my own edification, what is the difference between counseling sessions and counseling hours?
So the sessions is going to be individual clients. The hours is going to depend on the client. Some of them we meet with, usually for the first time we meet with somebody is at least an hour. But then all the subsequent sessions are going to be 30 minutes or less in all likelihood. So that's the variation there. So that's all it is. So and it's the ratio is going to change. The more new clients we get in at certain times of the year, in particular September in that area, as well as frankly April and May, we're going to see more hours and maybe not quite as many clients because so many new clients. And then other times of the year, we'll be working primarily with existing clients, and our counseling sessions will typically be shorter.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Tyler? Thank you, Tyler.
All right. Thank you for support once again. Appreciate it.
Okay. Mr. Beecham, Motran.
Good afternoon.
It's not a surprise.
I was laughing because your letter addresses him as the Honorable David Boutin.
It's not a surprise at all.
Well, Peggy, as a former Motran board member, if I send you a letter, I'm gonna go ahead and put the honorable. Because that's how we feel about it. And particularly because y'all may appoint another member this afternoon, I want them to go in with a good feeling, not what Boutin might say after all the years.
Well, I was thinking I need to be a little more respectful of him.
Peggy, I think you're safe. I mean, I think you can pretty much do whatever you want to. Our report for this month, we're really kind of focusing on our legislative activities because that's the big thing going on for us right now. You're 5 months out of every 2 years. The first map that you have there is a map of the top producing oil and gas counties in Texas that produce the most severance. There's a pretty big disparity there from over 35 million to over 1 billion, but that right there in a nutshell, those counties that you see highlighted are 91% of all that production in the state. So again, very concentrated area, and this is part of the case that we've been making here recently about refunding the County Road Grant Program for energy impacted areas. At this point, we had that Senate rider submitted and has been included in the Article 11 rider packet in the Senate. We have a similar article that is now being considered in the House for funding that program once again. Of that $250 million in the last funding go round, around $100 million of that comes to the 12 counties in the Odessa district. So a big chunk of it there, and that's good for us, even though there'll be a direct impact to Ector County and they'll get additional funding. But the flip side to that too is from an economic development perspective, all your contractors working in this area are pretty much based here in Odessa and to a lesser extent Midland. So it's a lot of additional business coming their way over that next 5-year period. And I think if you looked at that from a job perspective, it would sustain about 270 jobs a year for the next 5 years. So that's part of why that's important outside just the direct benefit. Another one that we are also working on at this point is some funding for a rail crossing fund for TxDOT. They do have some of those funds. Primarily they're based back to federal funds, but this would provide some additional state funding for that. And that's a huge problem out here. I mean, we all think about what happened in Pecos most recently, but out here, I mean, you have an overpass over JBS over the railroad tracks. Ultimately, we'll have one over Fodry in the next couple of years. But there's a lot of area going west there where we need to improve some of those rail crossings as well. So that'll be another item. We also have a bill, House Bill 2775, that was filed by Representative Landgraf that would add Odessa representatives to the I-27 Advisory Committee, much to the chagrin of the Ports to Plains group. But that would give the Ector County a seat on there as well as the city of Odessa, and we think that's important as we continue to work forward on that. A lot of our case that we've been making recently about some of these items and why they're important to our area comes back to some things. I think that second map in there is GDP increases 2022 to 2023. There's some amazing numbers there, and one of them that I'll give you just as a little comparison so you understand the impact of this economy. If you took the Midland and Odessa combined statistical area and you put it together, you're dealing with roughly about 348,000 people. By comparison, if you grouped Bell County and El Paso together, about 1.1 million. That being said, even with all those additional people, we produce a lot more GDP than they do. And we're seeing that being a good argument that we're able to make, talking about those GDP numbers. That being said, the other things that we are working on as we speak, an earmark, I shouldn't say earmark, member designated funding request at the federal level for some additional funding on the interstate. That would be about a $5 million request for the project that's currently coming up that would be from 1250 to 349, and I realize that's in Midland, so that sounds a little weird, but the reason we request those is because that's going to free up about $5 million of local category 2 that's programmed at the local NPO level. So that means Midland and Odessa both get some benefit from that. The other one is looking at some UTP revisions, and the upcoming UTP revision will happen probably, it'd be August to September when they approve that, where we can bring in some additional category 4 and 12 funding to some local projects, and again, help offset more of that category 2 so it can get reprogrammed here again at that local level. And that's part of why you've invested in a lot of these projects over time. That helps us make that case for them to put those additional funds. That saves those local funds. It means we can move to the next project on the list more, better, faster. That being said, I think the only other thing that I would throw out to you today, that last page in your packet, is going through the planning process for I-27 and I-14. and it focuses on the 158 corridor and the 349 corridors. We were a little bit disappointed in that, some of the timeframes that they had on there. We originally got this approved at the administration level in Austin back in August of 2023. Things in TxDOT world are always slow, so we're asking them to bump those up, particularly go ahead and include 349 all the way to about 829. In that first project, 158, bump it up about a year sooner. The final part that's not in here, though, is if you'll remember, we designated 385 going south of Odessa down to I-10 as part of I-14 as well. And so that's another one that we need to pick up. I just think everything's been moving so slow on the other two that at this point, we're just trying to get those bumped up, and then we'll move on to that 385 corridor. It's in a little better shape because it's already 4-lane divided, so the right-of-way issues aren't as problematic there. It would be about frontage road locations and that sort of thing. But that'll be the next one, and I anticipate hopefully this summer we'll get them bumped up to start working on that process. That being said, unless you've got any questions, I'm good.
I have one about the 385 corridor,
Yes, sir.
and I might not have been listening because there was a lot going on. You said it's going south and it's going to go to McCamey?
It'll go all the way to I-10.
All the way to I-10, okay, but that's not 4-lane going from, I think they call it spur 305.
It's
Goes from
4-lane.
there.
Well, okay, so
Yeah,
it's
from when you leave McCamey, it's 2-lane highway, and you got to cross the Pecos River and go through a mountain pass and all that stuff.
yeah. So here's part of the reason I've kind of laid off on that one for right now. That one won't just be the 4-lane divided portion. You're going to have to do a relief route study in McCamey. You're going to have to do one in Crane, and then you'll have to do a routing study when you get right down to McCamey, because there's actually 3 ways you can connect to I-10.
Right.
And so part of what they would do is a feasibility study of what's the best way, what's the least environmental impacts that you would have. And I don't suspect there'll be any of those 3 routes would have a huge, but 305 is certainly the closest one. And that's what we designated in I-14, but we left the wiggle room for them to look at those 3.
Yeah, because I've watched this transpire, and I've not been involved in any of it, obviously, but you know, it's coming out of Lubbock. 385, and this is just me being a hometown country boy, would have thought it'd be a lot better just to follow 385 all the way down to where you're talking about, rather than do all this stuff with 349, because and 349 doesn't. You know, 385 actually goes from the Mexico border all the way to Canada. It changes names, but if you wanted an interstate highway across the country, that makes more sense than anything that could possibly be done.
385 doesn't go through Austin, though.
Yeah, I understand.
It was
Wrong left turn. Good point.
if you go back,
But it does.
Mr. Phillips, to about 1993, they looked at the 385 route in its entirety. But the group that formed us came together, and what they looked at that time, because you were just extending I-27 down to I-10.
Right.
They came across 349. And there are some benefits to that, because if you go 385 over, you've got Seagraves, Ropesville, a couple of those things. This way, it just brought it down that 87 corridor, which made other people dealing with this a lot happier, and then went down 385.
Right.
And so it was a compromise route there, and we've just worked from that ever since. And
Yeah, well, just curiosity more than anything.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, James. I'm trying to find a date on my calendar, and I can't find it, so. Kaylee, sorry.
Thanks for the grand introduction, jeez. Everyone else got a nice introduction.
I just knew you'd be so responsive that
I
you
was
just
ready.
jump right up here.
Yes, she was leaning forward.
Did you bring the financials? Because I couldn't print it. I sent you a deal back and said.
Yeah, it was attached to the email. I'm not sure why it wasn't opening, but I handed it to you
It's a
earlier.
PDF.
I printed it.
Are we gonna do this
Yes,
today?
no, yes.
I can get it printed.
It's in the information I gave you, Peggy, with the other.
She
But I
said
handed
she
out right at
couldn't
the
print
beginning. No, I know, but I gave it to you at the start of the meeting. Did you not?
Oh, you did?
that she handed out?
Yeah, just
Oh, I'm talking, oh, okay.
yeah.
No, there
I
it
was
is.
talking about on the email. you
Out of the
sent.
email, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry about that miscommunication there. Okay, I'll make this brief because it's we still have some stuff on investments to talk about. So, month of November, local government pools showing a balance of $76 million. CDs, $4.5 million. Money market at Frost is showing $13.1 million. The sales tax receivable you see listed there has by this point been cleared already. That will show up on the balance sheet whenever we have recorded the sales tax revenue in the GL, but we haven't made the transfer from tax pool to tax pool. So that's why that's there, but it has been cleared. Down into the fund balance, we have total reserved of $27 million. On the short-term commitments, these are kind of hard to keep accurate because some of these reimbursement agreements, they just come in as they're being constructed. So I do the best I can on those. But the total number at the bottom is correct. That is all of our total reserve commitments. And I'm working on quantifying our infrastructure, the downtown infrastructure and facade agreements, because we had talked about incorporating that as part of the reserve fund balance as well. So total fund balance at the end of this date, $96,117,500. If there's no questions, we'll move on to the P&L. The sales tax received this month was $1.3 million. So year to date, you're at 2.5. Sales tax is trending up, so that's good news for y'all. The interest income is far above and beyond what we budgeted. Again, great for ODC. The miscellaneous income that you see there for $6,000 or $6,500 was payment from Motran. All of our contractors are obligated to return any unused funds within 30 to 45 days. I can't remember exactly what's in our agreement, but anyways, so that came in. Let's see, total expenditures for the month. We had a payment out to Walkaman of $501,377. That was the bulk of what was paid out this month for a total of $522,000. Year-to-date expenditures, $1.4 million. And year-to-date excess of revenue over expenditures is $1.8 million. So we will have another, it won't appear on your December financials, of course, but after the end of this month, we'll have another contractor payment round due. So we usually try to get those out within the first week after the end of the quarter. The next page is just a list of commitments. You'll see there the Walkman that we did pay out down in the long-term commitments. Again, kind of hard to keep track on what exactly there is short-term on Walkman and ICA and all those things. We have since this time made several more Walkman payments. I believe we've made a couple payments to ICA. And then we made a payment to Oryx last week. So
Haley, how
Yes,
does
ma'am.
when we actually pay out a payment on the grants, does that doesn't hit the income statement, right? It's
Yes.
just a balance sheet. Does it hit the income statement as an expense?
yes, so those.
Is that the business incentives?
Yes. Any job creation or capital investment grants will fall under that business incentive line item. Any infrastructure like ICA Walkabin will fall under the infrastructure grants. And then, of course, any downtown will be on that third line.
So what would be the credit of $304,000 under business incentives? Is that people giving us money back, or what is that? Why would that be a credit?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I bet that needs to go in the infrastructure down below, or it has to do with timing. It might have to do with timing of when it hits the GL versus when it comes out, because I have seen that before. It does cause some reconciliation issues.
You want to check that and just get?
I will.
You can just email the board.
I'll send a follow-up on what that is, yes.
So the budget, the total budget is for the 12 months, right?
Yes.
Okay. So for 12 months, we had budgeted that our obligation with the existing programs right now, the existing grants, would come to $20 million for this year.
No, so there were two philosophies that we talked about when we were going through budget. One philosophy was budgeting for the actuals that we were planning to pay out, which is more in alignment with what I would see being plausible. But the other philosophy that more of the board was comfortable with, and what has always been done, is budgeting for the max allotment that they would like to see for the year. So it's more of like a check figure in the board's eyes than an actual tracking of what is being paid out.
And one of the reasons that was done is so we didn't have to come back and do a budget amendment. That's really the reason. It used to be a lump sum. You'd take these last three line items and we budgeted a lump sum for business incentives. And then we said, well, yeah, but there's not all business incentives, so we split them out into those three line items.
Okay. So is it fair to say, or am I just cutting a corner here, that what we know we're obligated for this year is the $5,350, 110 that's in your short-term commitments due within 1 year?
Yes, I do try to keep up with that as best I can. Now, a lot of that fluctuates based on when compliance audits are done. If they're delayed, then it kind of throws the schedule off, but yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to also have a comment towards the end of the meeting with regard to some work that I think the board should do to better understand our financial obligations relative to the budget, relative to the projects that are being worked on. So I'll comment on that towards the end of the meeting. And, I think it will be helpful.
Okay, so the next page is the investment summary. Total between all of our funds, we started the month with 95 million and we ended the month with 97 million. Again, I'll note that total in the government pools of 79 million is different from what is reflected on your balance sheet to account for the reimbursement factor. And Blake, since you're new, I guess I'll explain that. Whenever we pay out, whenever we pay out any expenditure on behalf of the ODC board, it comes from the city's main account. Essentially, we don't have a separate account that we pay out of on your behalf. And so internally within our system, we track that and we just transfer money from your pot of funds to the city's pot of funds to pay back anything that was paid out for ODC.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The next page is the comparison in a little bit more detail. The text pool and logic, let me let you know what those rates are today, just for reference. Okay, so text pool is paying at about 4.35. Logic is paying at about 4.5. The Frost money market has also come down a little bit from there, as is to be expected. The First Bank and Trust CD, that is showing a maturity of 12/30, now has a maturity of August 30th of this year, and it's paying 4.32. So that was an 8-month CD at 4.32. And I'm still waiting to hear back on West Texas National and what they renewed us at, so I don't have an update there for you yet. But it was a 12-month CD, and likely renew it as a 12-month CD. Your municipal security section is showing blank, but it will not be after, I guess, March's financial, so it'll be blank for a couple more months. But we are planning to have some discussions on investments here in a little bit that resulted from our committee meeting. So, any more questions on any of this? I will get back to you on that credit that's showing. Like I said, it might just be a timing issue. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kaylee. I was looking for the date of the Odessa Partnership Meeting, which is, I can't remember what the date is, but it's sometime within the next couple of weeks.
24.
Yeah, there we go. So we have not met. Advertising, you want to make some comments regarding your advertising committee?
Yeah, I'll just talk a little bit about our last meeting. It was the first one we had since Tim and I became board members. I will say that Christy and our partner are doing a really good job at what they do. They are really aware of, like I said earlier, they're really aware of what's going on and watching the market, what really works. And that was our first concern, is are we reaching people, and are we reaching people that are diversified, because that's what this was originally founded for, was to diversify and try to get other business besides oil and gas. And so they really watch the demographic of where it's going in the area. And like I said, you won't see much of anything around here because it's not going around here. You'll see it on the internet, or you'll see it in LinkedIn or other places where they advertise. And one of the things was, she already went through a lot of this, but the new logo they came up with was, we really like that, and like the way that it can be moved around a little bit for either the chamber or the development corporation. They weren't having much success with print ads, so they moved that money and we're doing some other stuff to more digital stuff. They shifted the money from the budget to the digital ads, and some of the other stuff was how people can view what they're doing, and they came up with the Economic Development 101. If you want to kind of get a course online of what the economic development is doing. And then it was also the one-page part of where they could, you could access this, and you could actually access what it takes to get involved with the ODC on a one-page application. Almost you can kind of look at it and see. We talked about the smaller grants again for the downtown area, and getting those out where people could understand what Mr. Walker was alluding to, that there are smaller things versus, you don't have to come in and want $50 million to get something done. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's good, and it'll help start things going downtown. The YouTube videos are being successful, and they may be doing more of those, but she'll see how those go. And then they were talking about a workshop, sales tax workshop, maybe part of their thing for us. And then also the report that Christy gives us is going to give us a condensed part of what they do every month, or whether we want it quarterly or monthly, it'll still be coming into us, so we'll kind of know. But again, I guess the best thing I could say again is they really watch, and in this day and age, stewardship is really good, and they really watch what they're doing. I mean, they're making money, of course, it's their job and their business, but they're really conscientious about, hey, is this going to work, and are we reaching people? And it was Tom, Tracy, Tim, and myself, and Christy were in this meeting. So their doors open to us, our doors open to them anytime. And the same thing with y'all. If you want to call us and say, hey, I'd like to see this, we'll be right on the spot to call up and say, hey, David or Peggy or anybody said, we'd like to try to see where this is going. And so I think the way things are going now are really well. Like I said earlier in my comments about things change all the time. And so, what was new yesterday is old today, and that's how it is. Mm-hmm. But you have to stay on top of it. And I think they're doing really well. And Tim will agree with me, the same thing.
Great. Thank you, Ronnie.
Thank you.
Peggy, I guess from a compliance perspective, I don't know if you have anything that you want to report. I do know that there's some work upcoming to maybe revise or take a look at the matrix and whatnot, so.
Yeah, I attended the compliance meeting, and they went through, the first infrastructure loan. That was the first one that has been Kuros. And then there was another application which really led to some really good conversation, right, Brian? About the matrix. And he'll report on that, but they have taken up the charge to really look at the matrix. And, that is not something we discuss, and that's trade secret kind of stuff, but there are some anomalies in it that come up with answers that don't make sense on the grants. So, and they were going to do that on the 20th, a meeting on the 20th. I think that got canceled. I don't know. I'm not going to be in town, and I didn't want you to cancel it because I wasn't going to be, but I'm glad it is canceled because I'm not going to be. But so they will come to us with some thoughts about the matrix and changes that are needed.
And I know Gavin served on the compliance committee, Thomas has served on it, but Ronnie and Blake, I want to make sure we understand when we talk about the matrix, we basically developed several years ago a way to determine the eligibility for a level of grant funds that would provide the return on investment that we're looking for. So it factored in the value of jobs, that factored in the value of capital investment and tax dollars coming back to us and whatnot. So that's when we talk about that. And the matrix basically for the compliance committee is a guideline because there's some ranges in there. And one of the things that the compliance committee does, I think, very well, first and foremost, they evaluate, does this business have the ability to perform on the agreement? Are they going to fulfill their obligations? That's the primary thing. They look at their financial capabilities and whatnot. But then they're also evaluating how good is this project for our community with regard to jobs creation and capital investment. And the matrix is a guideline that helps them migrate through that conversation. And then they all come to a consensus that says, well, we think this grant request is worth X, whatever that is. And so when we talk about reevaluating it, I think there are some things that have occurred in the last year or so that probably caused us to think, we probably need to take a look at this again. So that revision is what they're going to be working on.
Yeah, if you get a chance, they have the orientation. Go to it for that. It helps. Okay. I went.
All right, the investment committee, investment review is myself and Thomas and Kaylee. And so Kaylee's going to make a presentation with regard to, we had a meeting and what the results of that meeting.
Okay. So, we did get a chance to meet. I put this brief presentation together for you. David made sure to tell me that it should be brief, so I will do that. I want to start by explaining our philosophy that we developed as a committee. The first step for me to do was to put together a cash flow. And this cash flow was to capture all of our current and existing grants. It was going to capture all of our operating expenditures and all of our current revenues. So what I did was I forecasted that cash flow out for the next 5 years because most of our grants are 5-year grants. I did increase the operating expenditures by an inflationary measure of 5% year over year. I also went back and looked at the historical increases for sales tax and put in a 6% increase just for what was currently in the budget. We are outperforming budget, so know that that is not reflected in these numbers. But we had to work with kind of what we have since we don't have a crystal ball. Once I did that, I was able to capture our cash outflow need starting in fiscal year 26 forward. So from there, we grouped those needs into 3 categories. One, short term. So these were going to be funds that were going to be dedicated to those needs over the next 12 to 24 months. Long term was anything kind of beyond that, as you would anticipate. And then there are those funds that are unreserved and uncommitted. So another piece to this puzzle is just where do we think the market's going to go? And I put this in here because I thought it was kind of funny. This is from 3 different kind of financial service industry people, whatever you want to call them. So this first one says the market's expectations for rate cuts has steadily increased over the last few weeks and now includes 3 rate cuts by the end of year, with the first 2 occur in June. The second one says, Powell's playbook, stay cool, stay patient, and let the economy breathe. Jerome Powell isn't hitting the panic button. There's no rush to tweak policy. The Fed's likely to keep rates steady in March, preferring to sit tight and watch things unfold. If cuts come later, they may go deep. So, and then the last one, just a little bit more technical. Since the 1950s, there have been meaningful trends of when core CPI price changes have been at 3% or higher. We're at 46 months consecutive of 3% or higher. So this financial forecaster said that they will likely cut rates only twice in 2025, but still unsure. So we talked about this a little bit in our committee meeting, that nobody really knows what's going to happen, right? So for that reason, we kept everything kind of more on a short-term basis. The investment policy does allow us to go up to 5 years on an investment, or longer if the board decides it appropriate. But we didn't really think that was appropriate, just with all of the economic factors up in the air. So to start, the total funds that we have available is different from the total liquid funds just because we have a couple of CDs outstanding. So the total funds available right now as of the November statement, I wanted to use these numbers since they were in front of you, 93,657,861, and the total liquid funds, so without the CDs we have in place, 89,146,342. So these, based on all of the factors I just mentioned, the cash flow, the economic factors, all of those, these were our selections that we talked about in the committee. I came to the committee with kind of a different set of selections, but of course these things change on a day-to-day basis, so I literally pulled all of these things this morning to make sure we had current data. So I'll just start at the top. The text pool funds, which matches what's on your balance sheet we showed earlier, $76,034,000. Current rate of 4.34. So those line items you see below, there's a 5.5, 17 million, and a 500,000. So those came directly from my cash flow and our fund obligations. So the 5.5 was showing as the amount that we were going to be short. Now, granted, that's based on a below budget sales tax, below budget interest income, all of those things. So it's very unlikely that we'll actually be short. On the flip side of the revenue, on the expenditure side, I was pretty aggressive in the payout structure. So Peggy, earlier we talked about on the financials that maybe about $5 million is what we'd pay out. Well, I went more aggressive just because I assumed, maybe Wackerman finishes their whole project within this fiscal year, and we've paid out that entire amount. So I wanted to capture that in there, be as conservative as possible. So that's that shortage. The next one is just the standard cash outflows, operating expenditures, and grants. The next one is showing to be a shortfall in 2026, the 500,000. So all of those funds are technically committed in our eyes, right? We want to keep them very liquid, very accessible, because we might need them tomorrow to pay something, or in 2026 to pay a shortage. So I kept all of that in text pool because it's just like a regular bank account. We can just pull it out anytime we need it. So the total committed in text pool is the sum of those three, 23 billion. The uncommitted is just what's going to remain in there, 52 million. So down to the investments, this is where we get into some CDs and some agencies. Short term, I am capturing 12 to 24 months. 13 million on the orange line is our 2026 cash outflow requirement. So that's why we wanted to keep it in something relatively short. I have listed a 9-month agency there. The philosophy with the agencies, just given the rate environment, is we either wanted something that was non-callable, so it was going to lock our rate in for the anticipated amount of time, or something that had a very low coupon rate, so it was unlikely to be called, therefore equally as likely of a chance that it'll be locked in for that amount of time until maturity. So 500,000, and all of these are flexible, right, these amounts, but these are just what the committees kind of talked about and recommended. 500,000 in a 9-month agency is showing at a rate of 4.03. Down below, I just diversified some CDs there. Citibank, 365 at 4%, 2 million. Frost Bank, 365 at 3.4, 2 million. And then Prosperity, 365 at 3.5 for 2 million. I think these are pretty good. I'm waiting for First Bank and Trust to give me some rates. If they come in higher than the Frost one, then we'll drop the Frost one and replace them with the First Bank and Trust. So the total invested short-term funds within the CDs and the agency listed is 6.5 million. There's 13.5 that we could invest, but in a conservative measure, I didn't want to put all of it into something, tie all of it up. And we'll come back for any questions or jump in at any time. So a little bit more long-term investments, 18 to 36 months. I focused on some agencies here. Again, I just broke it up. $1 million, $1 million, a 2, and a 1.6. These are kind of arbitrary, but you can see the rates that are paying out on those. So from top to bottom, 4%, 4% with maturities of about 18 months. Down below, 4% with a maturity of, let's see, what is that, January of 27, almost 2 years. And then on the 1.6 million, a 3.9% yield with a maturity of 2 years from now. So that one's pretty good. Unless rates skyrocket from then to now, that's always a risk too. But we're not tying all of our money up for that reason, right? Okay, so down below, the next couple of options, 3.9% maturing in 2028, which is a 3-year, and then 3.9 also in 2028. So these are kind of the best options to go with. I mean, these are interchangeable, but the philosophy will be the same. Non-callable or very low chance of being called, just so we can lock those rates in. The 2 orange lines down at the bottom are cash outflow in year 5 and 6, and like I mentioned, or I guess 4, 5, and 6. Oh no, I'm sorry, 5 and 6, and we didn't want to go out that far for any reason. So on the last slide, just kind of big picture, kind of more FYI. The total committed funds over the next 5 years is $84 million, which includes the $7 million text dot and the $15 million text dot that y'all approved in December. The remaining uncommitted, if you received no more money from now until the end of time, and if you handed out no more grants, you'd have $9.5 million when you close the door. So obviously not the case, not going to happen, but I just wanted you to see what your commitments were over the next 5 years in comparison to where you are right now and your total available funds.
Kaylee, can you tell me those acronyms? FAMCA is who?
FAMCA, Fannie Mac.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And FFCB?
Federal, ooh, man. I didn't know there was going to be a quiz, Peggy.
No, I'm just asking because I don't know what the acronyms are.
I can Google it for you in about 30 seconds.
Well, I looked up FAMCA, and it's a farmers group.
Oh, okay. There you
But
go.
I
I was going to say farmers for the second one. FFCB is Federal Farm Credit Banks. So it is a bank, farm one. FAMC.
Farmers Credit Bank.
A.
So is the security, are these insured, or is it just because they're federal agents? I mean, what's our insurance on this amount of money?
So they're highly safe. They're very safe. I don't know about security. Like our tax pool funds are secured at a certain ratio, like 0.96%. I want to say this follows the same guidelines, but I'm not entirely sure.
I mean, do you know that, Thomas? You're a banker.
Don't get me in a line about what the government guarantees. The Fannie Mae stuff's usually guaranteed, considered U.S. government securities. I don't know about the Federal Farm Credit Bank.
Yeah, I'm not
I don't
sure
know if
that
that's
FAMCA is Fannie Mae. Okay, well, I just, I was curious.
I don't know if they're guaranteed or not.
Yeah, it's a secondary market for agricultural mortgage-backed securities.
So it's mortgage-backed securities.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a pseudo-government. I don't know if it's guaranteed or not. It's probably it's probably A-rated, so it probably fits your investment deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that it's, government-backed. And I always agree when we say government-backed because the government has no money, so.
Yeah.
They're government-backed until the government shuts down, right?
And the Frost money market, is that like guaranteed, that $13 million?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, even our CDs are guaranteed, all of it, yeah.
Okay.
They securitize them, anything over 250. The banks have to securitize public funds.
Mm-hmm.
The first 250 they don't, but they normally do anyway. But they
Yeah.
Anything
they
over that?
securitize them because they have to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes these are just strange times. I was
Yeah.
just curious what our security
So,
is.
are you saying we're going to put all of this money into these funds? Are you giving us the option of doing these funds? I wasn't sure how I read this.
So I am saying that we do move to put these monies in these funds. I didn't put everything I had the ability to put in the funds because I wanted to leave some just kind of floating out there in case we needed it. But if you're not comfortable with the FAMCA,
But down at the bottom, this last $6 million, we're not investing anything.
Mm-mm.
So you're doing $6 million for year 3, $6 million for year 4, and then the $6.5 million in the CDs.
I'm doing 5.6 for year 3 and $2 million for year 4.
Okay, the stuff in the yellow is not what you could do.
Yes.
What you are doing is in the white.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're not investing it at all.
No.
Okay.
And no, the excess will either lie in the money market or in the tax pool.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that was going to make that comment.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some of this, I think you can get lost in this. When we looked at, when we met, we don't have a lot of flexibility with regard to, I mean, there's no 8% options, or, I mean, there's, and so what we were looking at and what we looked at previously at the board level was, we probably should diversify some our investments to some degree. We ought to try to take advantage of better rates and whatnot. I think at one point we really had everything in textbook. That may not have been exactly that, but that's what we did. Well, I mean, there's other options. If the market appears to be on a downward trend rate-wise, then why wouldn't we lock some money in CDs? And we did some of that. Mm-hmm. And there's some of that built into this. You know, putting it in these other funds, to me, is just another way to kind of lock in
Right.
What we think maybe. Now, it may not prove out that way, but there's nothing in here that's really long-term, so I think it's a way to try to take care of our funds the way we should be trying to take care of our funds, and do the best job we can to get the best return on our excess funds. And that's all we're trying to do at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, the lion's share of what we've got is in textbook logic,
Mm-hmm.
and that money market account has been really good, but it fluctuates daily, and if the rates went down really fast,
Mm-hmm.
well, that rate's going to go down really fast. Then we get an opportunity. So do we want to do something different? And we can make a decision here at the board. But this fits what we previously asked Kaylee to do with regard to, let's come up with a strategy and not be afraid to change the strategy if we want to later on down the road. But let's come up with a strategy, and we did. And that's what we're trying to implement at this point. We're not trying to time the market. We're just trying to maybe lock some stuff in when we think rates may be going down at this
Mm-hmm.
point. That's really all it amounts to.
And I just got an email from First Bank and Trust. They're offering 12 months at 4%. So we'll replace the Frost one with that
So
one.
the CDs, these two CDs that have the dates on, is that when they were purchased or when they mature?
Those are not the correct dates. Those should be when they mature. That First Bank and Trust, it has an 8/30/25 maturity. And the West Texas National Bank, 12/18, because it matured December of 24. So it renewed at 12 months. It's going to mature in December of this year. And I'm waiting on the rate from them to see what it was.
Because if you just initially look at this, you think, well, why would I stay there? Because they're so much lower than the
Oh yeah,
others.
these are outdated. So that First Bank and Trust is at 4.92, and West Texas National Bank, it might be at 3.96.
Can you send us a revised version of this with those dates on there?
So the one that is in your packet, I don't have my packet anymore, is correct with the exception of the First Bank and Trust that I mentioned, the 4.92.
That's in what you handed out?
Yeah, the financial on the summary sheet, the summary comparison. Oh, I do have it here. Yeah, 4.32 for First Bank and Trust. Maturity date 8/30/25.
And it's how much?
432.
The amount?
No, the
Right.
yield to maturity.
4.32%.
Okay, so this 5% that's on here isn't right. I think that's what you're saying. Could we get one that is
Yes.
updated with the expiration dates and?
Okay, I sure can.
That FAMCA is Freddie Mac, Farmer Mac. It's the same as Freddie Mac and Fannie Mac. So it's a government-sponsored enterprise. so it's ways for them to do mortgage-backed security, so it's government sponsored, but it's not government guaranteed, but it's a paper kind of deal.
Yeah.
Gives you the warm fuzzy feeling.
Do you have anything else to add?
I
Mr.
think we're
Reedy?
doing what we can do in today's rates. I mean, you know, in the old world, you could go 5 years and get paid a premium for going 5 years. In today's world, we're paying higher rates for shorter term interest rates. It makes no sense to me. It wasn't what I learned in college, but that's what's happening today. So.
Okay, so if you,
I guess the way I would leave it is, unless there's some objection, and we want to take a look, another look at something and tweak it or whatnot, she's going to go forward with this plan. Did anybody have any concern about doing that?
No, but I would ask that it be current,
Yeah,
that we look
yeah.
at the real information.
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
That'd be great.
I can fix that and send it out, and I will pull the trigger on these trades this afternoon. They'll go through tomorrow.
All right.
But we're not voting, right?
No.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing that I would, I guess, add is on, I think the city council is considering a position of a financial advisor. We would get the opportunity to take advantage of that as we go forward. But that there's no decision been made on that. Item 8 on the agenda has been postponed to the April meeting, so we won't be looking at that. Brian, you want to talk to us about item 9, the building facade improvements?
Yeah, good afternoon.
Hi.
On behalf of the Compliance Committee, we had a first when we got to deal with our first facade grant that came through at our last meeting. And so look through a little bit of the process, but we are happy to make a recommendation on this current, what you see in front of you. This is for a property at 407 West 2nd Street, the owner of Benjamin Quiros. Scope of the project, so what the grant money, the application was stated, is for work that is to be done. That is largely going to be dealing with, I think, the exterior of this particular building, specifically with updated windows, updated doors, etc. The total cost estimate that was submitted was for $68,323.54. Also of note that there has been previous work done on this building already. Asbestos abatement, I think the parking spaces were redone in front, and all the various activities and generators and things for that, that the owner paid over $114,000 for. It is our understanding that the maximum allowed grant.
I'm gonna be right next to you, man. That's my property you're talking about.
Yes, absolutely. Is from our understanding that the maximum amount of grant that we can have is $25,000, and that was our recommendation to you all is for that amount. And again, that's going to be tied to the $68,000 that is yet to be spent. But Mr. Kudos,
Thank you so much. So the Odessa Hispanic Chamber, no, we're wrong. I used to do the Odessa Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Did this a lot. But this is the property that we have in question here. This is 407 West 2nd Street. Used to be Bill Alexander's office. It's 11,000 square foot property on 407 West 2nd. This is what, may I approach the dais and just kind of show you what we've done here. So this is how I found the property here, kind of just really dilapidated. It's been sitting right there on second, across from Fresenius. I think maybe you've seen it. So that's kind of what we've been working on for several years here. I've abated all the asbestos. This is what it looks like now. I stuccoed it. I repaved the parking lot. I striped it. We've done lots of improvements over there. I've spent probably over $800,000 in what we've done here. So we're just looking for, we have a couple of grants that we qualify for, the facade and the infrastructure. Today we're looking for a facade grant for the storefront windows and doors on work already completed here, 407 West.
Anybody have any questions regarding the request?
I would make a motion to approve this resolution with an apology to Mr. Quiros on getting caught in the middle of terminating the project and restarting it. You kind of got caught in a quagmire there, so it shouldn't have taken us this long. We're sorry.
No worries, no worries. We're getting it done, making improvements to downtown Odessa. I look forward to participating in the town that I love so much. Thank you very much.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank
all
you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Brian,
All right.
Premier Business Supplies.
Next project, this is more of our standard fare. Again, led to a lot of good discussion along with another project that evidently has been delayed, but this is, company name is Premier Building Supply. The property address is going to be 2400 Stephen Road, and that's be obviously located here in Odessa. From my understanding, Premier Building, this is going to be a startup, but from local entrepreneurs who are looking to kind of add some vertical integration into what they are building and on their general contract projects. What PBS, the acronym, will be doing is they are planning on fabricating basically steel products for buildings. These could include steel studs, steel trusses, and things. In the presentation that was supplied to us, I think it might be referenced in the larger packet. They feel this will give them a better advantage to compete with area builders and manufacturers are coming into the area that are more vertically aligned, and so we can keep a lot of those projects going here, and that is kind of the thesis behind their business, and want to be able to supply those things and build these things here. If you look at the property, it's a very large land space, and so it's going to quite a bit of infrastructure and capital improvement is going to be needed. If we're looking at the total amount of jobs, they are looking to add 17 full-time jobs as of year one, estimated payroll of $905,000. That will escalate through year five, I believe. And if we're looking at kind of what they're asking for, I think the total amount of their capital investment is going to be in around $2 million, which include equipment and upgrades to property and such. So as before, this pass-through compliance, our recommendation for the board was based upon the following: of allowing $246,750 for a job creation grant, a capital investment grant of $28,800. For the total recommendation coming out of the compliance committee for this, for Premier Building Supply, of $275,550. That will be basically amortized, I believe, over 5 years and roughly a little over $55,000 a year, showing that the company has followed through on their business plan and their projections.
I think it's important to note that typically, if we approve this, there's a compliance review. We always pay these in arrears, so they have to provide the evidence that the capital investment was made and that the jobs were created and maintained and whatnot. I think one of the things that you mentioned, this is a startup for them. Mm-hmm. It's not really a true startup because we typically don't do jobs creation and capital investment grants for startups, but this is integrating into their other businesses.
Yes,
and
yes.
whatnot.
These are seasoned entrepreneurs with existing successful businesses, so this is kind of a new venture, but it is one, again, that they are already involved with the building industry. They saw this need and they're acting upon it, so there was a comfort level among the compliance committee to go forward with this.
And they have the financial capacity to perform on their agreement.
Yes, we believe so.
Yeah, so I think that's important.
The only thing I think that needs a little tweak, simply because of compliance and looking back, the resolution says that they'll make a capital investment of approximately $2 million for renovation and repairs to their existing distribution facility. It's really an equipment, $750 of that is equipment.
Okay.
So they wouldn't be making $2 million in the building. And just for compliance purposes, when we go back to see that they spent the money, we need to have and equipment added to that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions?
Just if you'll say this again, and you said it was 17 full-time employees, did you say there was a step up on that, and that was the total amount was going to be 17?
That was, I think right now that's their projection. Obviously, with kind of the scale that I believe it will likely be higher, but that's what they presented, likely being conservative, so that's what we're going with here.
I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second to approve the grant request. Any further discussion? And with that modification in the resolution? Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Outstanding.
Thank you, Brian.
Yes,
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank the committee for the
Thank
work,
you.
for your work.
You did a great job on your first committee meeting.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Okay, item 11, it shows that I'm going to present this, but I'm thinking that somebody else ought to be presenting. We're basically trying to match up the intent of our agreement and the document itself. That's in short.
That's exactly it. So,
Yeah.
when the Oryx, and then I did provide a copy of the document after the fact. I hope everybody's got that. So, when it was approved, the board, I believe the board's intent was to give them 50% up front and then pay the remainder over 4 years, divided equally. The attorney, again, this was our outside attorney at the time, prepared the contract. That language was not included in that contract. It was, our standard is the 5 years, which is the one you just approved. So all this is it's an addendum to the contract that is just spelling out the language that they are going to get 50% up front, which they have been paid, that 50%, and then the rest of it they will have to perform to get their remaining payments.
Yeah, we didn't think it made sense to leave that language or leave that contract out there where it wasn't exactly correct, and wanted to make sure that it matched up with.
Yeah, the original
the intent.
contract said the equipment needed to be installed and up and running before we gave them half the money.
Yes, it did. And that was, from what I understand, that was just like I said, a different attorney prepared this, and I just, maybe the intent wasn't communicated to the attorney, or when the board looked, you know.
I don't know where the handoff missed, but it missed.
So I'm just trying to clear it up, and for compliance reasons, because when this does go to compliance, our compliance review,
The audit, yeah.
that they're gonna wanna see this. So this is, it's really just to cross the Ts and dot the Is.
It's clean
So
up
we went
amendment.
ahead and gave them the money before we approved this?
Yes,
We,
authorized it.
Okay.
There was a substantial delay in the payment. That's the reason that I authorized it. And there was, in fact, we did a memo to the file when I authorized it, as explaining exactly why we did it.
And I also got the city manager to sign off on the payment authorization. Just checks all the way across the board.
Any, I would entertain a motion.
Well, I'll move we do this. I also would like anything that we amend, I'd like to see the original contract before the day we amend it. Like this one. Because I don't like to change stuff I didn't know what I'm changing unless I see it.
I think that's a reasonable request.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
sort of.
Because then it gets, I just don't want to, I don't want to get accused of approving something I didn't know I approved.
Yes, sir.
This was a very unusual circumstance. It shouldn't happen.
But I move we do
Shouldn't
this
happen
since it's
again.
already done.
Yeah.
And listening,
Listen, nobody would accuse you of that.
No, but I just, you don't ever know.
I
But
get
just,
what you, we get it.
That is point well taken.
since the board's all changed, I'd like to know
Yeah.
what we're doing.
Point well,
Yes, sir.
point
I
well
agree.
taken.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Have a motion, second, to approve the item as presented. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We typically have had a representative from this board serve on the Motran board. I would like to ask if anyone,
We talked about it last
Okay.
time, Gavin.
Gavin would like to serve?
We just couldn't vote on it because it wasn't on the agenda.
Okay. So,
Move? You want me to motion?
I don't,
You make the appointments,
You're
don't
just
you?
appointed.
I don't think we need, I mean, we can do that, but I would just prefer to make the appointment. He's appointed.
And not
Great,
only is
thank
he
you, and
appointed,
thank
he
you for being
volunteered.
willing to do it.
Absolutely.
I think he'll enjoy it. The upcoming dates is, next item we have on the agenda. Our next board meeting is April 10th at 3. Typically, we've talked about this just to make sure there's no major conflicts with everybody.
Mr. Chairman, were you gonna talk about a special meeting?
I am, but I want to do it after knowing that we've got this meeting set up. Anybody have any problems with April 10th at 3 p.m.?
No.
Yes, sir.
All right. In addition to that, and prior to, probably in about 3 weeks, kind of think about maybe an April 3rd-ish timeframe, I would like for us to have a 1 hour, I'm anticipating 1 hour workshop. Purpose of the workshop would be to review the projects that our contractor's working on. I know you got a presentation made at the last meeting, but I would like for us to review those projects in the context of how are we going to accomplish any of those financially? In other words, if we anticipate there's going to be grant requests, how does that tie in with our financial situation? And because those projects are all confidential, we'll have to do that as an executive session item. I think it will be really good for this board to come together on the same page with regard to here's where we are, here's where we're trying to get to, and here's what's in front of us, and that's in the works. Just to put it all into context. One of the things I think would be a huge mistake would be we get down the road somewhere and we've overspent our funds because we didn't do the proper analysis and proper forecasting. Or we passed up a project because we didn't think, we weren't certain that we were going to have the funding available to do it. That would be just as big a mistake as far as I'm concerned. So I think this should, and it's going to change. But going forward, after that meeting, I think we'll all be able to come to these monthly meetings and make the adjustments that we need to going forward if any adjustments are required. So think about that. We'll send out some dates and times for that, and Norma will do that. And then, we'll come up with 2 or 3 dates and times, and hopefully, and I want to do it where everybody can be there because it's really important, particularly because we have so many new members on our board at this point.
And are we gonna, at that time, will we be talking to sort of about the philosophy of it's not just dollars, it's types of commitments, or no?
Yes, yes. Okay, so if I have my agenda, is that it?
That's it.
We have nothing else. Because we don't operate under Robert's Rules of Order, I have to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor, signify by aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.